Well, I mean, most of them are fearful that the Chinese government might actually crack down much harsher than it already has. I mean, right now it's just a few clashes between protesters and the police. But as you may have heard, the PLA, I mean, the People's Armed Police, over 12,000 of them, along with tanks, armored personnel carriers, and helicopters, have amassed in Shenzhen, which is roughly about 20 miles outside of Hong Kong. Um, they fear that if the international community continues to remain silent, and if you know the United States, like President Trump, if they continue to state that they're not going to interfere in this, they feel that China might actually shut down the protest and crack down like they did in Tiananmen.
And so let's go further there. President Trump saying that China is moving troops to the border. Should we expect to see a strong action from China here soon?
Given by the statements by Chinese officials, especially the China office, the Communist Party's office in Hong Kong and Macau, they have stated that if these demonstrations cease, if they don't cease, then they will have to use force. And giving that type of speech, along with amassing troops to the border, it might look like they might be looking to crack down.
All right, first of all, we of course have to tell those who are tuning in that you are of course watching some graphic images that was taped from earlier today, which we had covered live, and it's an incredibly tense situation, right? I mean, everybody in that situation right now is in a state of of terror. I mean, in some ways, because you have the protesters who are inside, and you've got those trying to get inside. You've got the police who do have to now battle these big crowds, and all of these emotions are heightened. No one is being put in the right place, in the state of mind right now to dispel this in a non-violent way. But you actually have very personal experience being from the Uyghur region. I want to kind of get your personal perspective on how the Chinese government is maybe feeling at the moment, having to deal with this very tough situation with international attention focused on Hong Kong.
Well, number one, China's goal is to control this region, to maintain its power. The Chinese Communist Party feels that if there's democracy in Hong Kong, then it might spread to other parts of China, or even into East Turkistan, Tibet, and other areas. So they feel that they have to crack down on Hong Kong, because if they don't crack down in Hong Kong, then it might encourage other places to demonstrate. And what we fear is, given our experience in Urumqi in 2009, from what we learned from that is the Chinese government used plainclothes police disguised as anti-government protesters to hijack the peaceful demonstrations and turn it into rioting. And then they used that rioting as an excuse to clamp down and massacre hundreds of people. Earlier, BBC reported that Hong Kong defended that its use of plainclothes police disguised as anti-government protesters. And given the amassing of troops outside of Hong Kong, it looks like the Chinese government is about to crack down.
And in your estimation and in the conversations that you have had, is this the same tactic that the mainland Chinese police forces are now using in Hong Kong?
Yes, I mean, this is exactly the same tactics that the Chinese police forces or Hong Kong police forces are using as well. The CCP has already sent in, their agent provocateurs to dress up as anti-government protesters to create violence and then use this to justify their actions.
What if protesters said is their next move?
Again, I think that their next move is, I think that they're going to send in troops to crack down. And again, it would be in the interest of the free world to, act immediately and make preparations to prevent such a massacre from happening. Because if another Tiananmen Square massacre happens in Hong Kong, then that's just going to make China even more powerful, especially if the international community continues to remain silent.
I want to be clear. Are you advocating for international forces to step in at this point? Have you had conversations with the U.S. government on this topic?
We haven't really had conversations directly with the U.S. government on this topic. I mean, we have been encouraging, the U.S. government, the Trump administration, to sanction Chinese officials over the concentration camps in East Turkestan and over the suppression of religious freedom and over the police brutality that is occurring in Hong Kong.
They're two separate issues, but still very intertwined because of the two countries and conversations between the U.S. and China on the trade front. If U.S. was to take a strong stance here, what would that mean for some of the trade conversations that are taking place right now?
Well, I mean, if the U.S. would take a stronger stance here, I mean, this would definitely be a leverage for the United States to use against China. However, my personal opinion is that America didn't negotiate with the Third Reich of Nazi Germany. What China is doing in East Turkestan is essentially a genocide that's unfolding in Hong Kong. This repressive police brutality. Again, it would be in the interest of the United States to stop the trade negotiations with China and to make no such deal with China.
What do you think is the best course of action if the folks who are living in Hong Kong want to have a voice? They can't have it any other way. These protests are growing larger by the day, and they're getting more and more, as I said, heightened, and these forces are now moving in. Is there at this point a way to resolve this in a more diplomatic and civil way?
Yes, the United States and the free world, they can impose sanctions against the Chinese Communist Party officials. They can impose tariffs. They can use diplomatic leverage within the UN. They could put this issue on the UN Security Council